This episode of the Marketing Podcast is brought to you by Acorn 30.
Wait, that's our company.
Right. Although some people think we're a bit nuts, we work with businesses to help them grow into mighty oaks through creative campaigns, amazing websites, and funky branding. Check us out at acorn30.com. On this episode of the Marketing Podcast, Facebook is clamping down on clickbaiting. Google is starting to index your site for mobile. Reddit is doing some updates. And Travelocity has partnered up with Tinder.
Creativity sells. Applying the right creative at the right time is the recipe for great marketing. The Marketing Podcast looks at marketing news and finds the secret ingredients that make great marketing.
Hi, welcome to the Marketing Podcast. I'm Brendan Quigley.
And I'm Heather Watson.
How are you?
I'm good.
It's a pretty good day.
It's always a good day.
That's true.
One of my first jobs, I had to answer the phone. It was like out of some weird sales training that the employer had gone through. I would have to say, "It's a great day at XYZ company. Heather speaking. How may I help you?" Every single time I answer the phone. It's always a great day.
I could tell from the way you said that. It was really trained.
It was totally like it was a different me. And look at me, I just snapped back into it. That was 20 years ago.
Phone voice.
Yeah. It's a great day. I could say it the same way all the time. It was always a great day. But it was funny because I remember questioning the whole thesis around it was that, if people can hear the smile in your voice. And initially, when I was being trained, it was look up when you say it, because when you look up, you kind of can't help but not puff up your chest and feel up kind of thing. It's like a physiology relationship.
They were sciencing this.
Yeah. And some people would be like, wow, that's a mouthful, because it was a mouthful to say. When I'd answer the phone, the responses that I would get from people, of course, I never didn't do it, so I don't know what responses I would have got, to split test it, right? But a lot of people were like, wow, aren't you happy? Aren't you cheery? Aren't you, And I was 20 and young and naive, and I was always happy.
Whenever I get a call from
Less
a number
jaded.
that I don't recognize, I'm always like, hi, long, quiet pause.
Right.
And then hang up, because if you say hi the second time, the auto, the robot kicks in.
Right.
It's voice activated.
Right.
But if you don't say hi the second time, and so I don't know how many times I've got on the phone and said hi, and my mother didn't hear me, and so we just sit quietly on the phone.
Awkward silence. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So today we have a potpourri of things that we're going to talk about, and we're going to lead with a story that came out of the Facebook camp, not long ago, I should say. And I think this is really, really, really important to talk about, because I see it all too often already, and now Facebook's going to get a little bit meaner on it. So a couple of sources are reporting, GeekWire being one of them, that Facebook cracks down on posts that bait users into liking and sharing content. I'm glad they're doing this. I'm not saying oh my God, why is Facebook doing this? I am glad they're doing this. But what I want to say is, we've seen them all like and share for a free yada, 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 like and share to be entered into a contest. And those contests have gone against the Facebook terms of service for many, many years. And so many people think, well, everybody does it, so it must be okay. They don't even realize it goes against the terms of service. It goes against, we're talking bigger laws than just breaking Facebook rules. When you're running contests, actual contests where you're drawing somebody's name to whether it's a coffee or a car or $1 million, you need to be very, very clear on what the terms of that contest are. And liking and sharing isn't clear enough. When is the draw happening? How is the draw happening? Is it being done in an unbiased way? How are these contests being run so that they're fair and open? And there's legal ramifications if you do it wrongly, which we learned from McDonald's a few years ago, if you remember, that got hauled in because they didn't run one of their McDonald's Monopoly contests properly. This was about, 5-7 years ago. And there was a class action suit. And the people who launched the suit won, and as a result, McDonald's ended up doing because it was so it touched the entire country, because they couldn't isolate who the victims were. It was so large that McDonald's penalty was that they had to basically give free value to all of their customers to a certain value. So it was like they ran like a sweeps week, and basically everything, you'd go through the drive-thru and they're like, hey, your coffee is free. Hey, your McMuffin is free. Like, it was just like a random.
Oh, they just had to give away enough.
They had
money.
to give away enough as payment.
Imagine being
as
the
settlement.
judge. Imagine being the judge on that. Well, I don't want nuggets. I guess we'll just make them give stuff away.
Yeah. And it just came down to the fact that they weren't stating the odds correctly or something like that. And it was a weird anomaly.
So, and I guess this isn't Facebook, but to touch on that, Apple has said that, games in the App Store will have to state the odds for loot boxes. Same. And again, it's for those larger laws. It's not necessarily because Apple's trying to make it more difficult. It's not because Facebook's trying to make it more difficult. It's because there are bigger laws in place.
It's the law.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, ultimately. So, there's a couple of things that are happening here. First of all, Facebook, although it goes against the terms of service, we all know this, and it has for a long while. We all know this. It's been known for quite some time. But now what they're going to be doing is actually, in their algorithm, start silencing or muting the people who are asking for likes. Comment with your yada, yada, yada below. Because they're sick and tired of people trying to gamify the algorithm, and it's annoying users because users don't want to see it. So now if you post those types of posts as a Facebook page, your business, they're going to serve that post to even fewer people within your audience because their algorithm is such that they're going to penalize you. So
the perfect example of you trying to game the system not working.
Exactly. So it needs to be authentic and not like clickbait. The other side of it is they also announced, and TechCrunch is reporting on this, and we'll put the links up on the show notes at themarketingpodcast.ca, that Facebook is going to be ditching disputed flags on fake news and display links to trustworthy articles instead. Now, we talked about something similar to this when we were making predictions for 2018, knowing that people are going to be looking for more verified information. So it's no longer will we be able to see the links in Facebook that says, this celebrity was guilty of this crime, and then you have to click over to some janky website just to find out what celebrity or what the charge was.
That is poorly mobile responsive.
That is always poorly mobile responsive. And it's like you have to click through like 10 pages to get the whole story because you're advancing.
That's your first clue. If you are on your phone and you click to a non-mobile responsive news article.
Fake news.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have to give credit to CBC. They've got the Android Instant app.
Right.
So I click a CBC link. It actually downloads a tiny part of the CBC app so I can read it in the app experience. So that is, I would say, if the site doesn't load well.
Right. So this new change that they launched basically will show users will no longer see disputed flags, which are the red badges displayed under articles flagged by Facebook's third-party fact checkers. Instead, they will see related articles or links to content from reputable publishers. And then the second change is a new initiative to help Facebook understand how people judge the accuracy of information based the news sources that they use, which won't result in any immediate changes to the news feed, but it's meant to help Facebook gauge how well its efforts are working on stopping the spread of misinformation. We talked about this. Journalists and Facebook is in this weird space, as is Twitter. Are they a news provider? Are they an aggregator? Are they an advertiser? And they're still really wrestling with what their role is in this new world of real live media, and they're distributing media, and what is their responsibility to ensure that it is not fake news. I even dislike the term fake news just because of how it all came to be.
Doesn't make sense, yeah.
But facts need to be facts, and journalism needs to make sure that stories are reported in a balanced and fair way.
An opinion needs to be opinion. And I think that's where the large problem comes in, is when opinions start getting passed off as facts.
Right. And Lord knows there's no shortage of opinions on the internet.
I don't have one.
So that's some important Facebook news. So, very, very superficially, if you are running like and share contests on your Facebook page for visitors to participate in, or if you are even asking people to comment below in exchange for getting some sort of free or opportunity to win something for free. You need to stop doing that because they're going to be cracking down on it. Nobody is going to see it. You will see if you had, to begin with, if you had any engagement, if people were responding, that's going to just turn into zero. And if you're seeing it, that's why you're seeing that. And also check the legalities of running contests because it is a very regulated thing. Doesn't matter what country, province, state you are in. Running contests vary from state to state, province to province. So you need to be up on what those are.
And there is a good way to do it. Like you can do it correctly. You can give away product in a contest.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You just need to make sure that you're doing within the proper terms and the boundaries that are set out by provincial and state law, and then do it within the rules of the platforms that you're launching that contest in.
Yep.
Moving along to the next one, onto the Google. We're talking about the Google. So this came off of the Google Webmaster Central blog, so where Google puts out all their cool news, and we're nerdy and like to read those things on occasion. So Google has now started their mobile-first indexing of websites. What does that mean, Brendan?
So they're going to start using the mobile first as like a major piece of information when they're indexing sites. So if your site is either like a mobile site or really mobile friendly, it's going to rank better in the overall Google algorithm.
Right. So if somebody is searching for companies that sell the things that you sell, and there's 5 companies that have mobile responsive sites, or mobile first sites rather, and your company doesn't have a mobile first site, chances are yours will not show up near the top of that list.
Exactly.
Right.
And like this is, I think Google's a little late to the party. Mobile phones make up such a large percentage of browsing that people have been self-selecting. You pop onto a site, you have to zoom to see the menu. You just back out and go to the next one. Like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like people are already drawn to these mobile-friendly, mobile-first websites. So for Google to build that into the indexing in a major way. It's just like almost a reaction to what people want, relevancy. And like it should be a message, to anyone who doesn't have a website that's mobile friendly. Like, I don't know, go get a WordPress blog or something for your site because it'll do better than whatever you've got right now.
Yeah, I agree. Now, just so that you're aware, this is just kind of the beginning of it. So it doesn't mean that tomorrow you need to run out and make sure your website is mobile first and is taking that into consideration. Google has not provided, in their blog, hasn't provided a timeline for when we're going to see this full shift over. They're being cautious with the rollout. They want to do it right. They don't want to exclude. I mean, you think about, we've referenced lots, those big box stores that have, big databases of products and menus, and they don't want to penalize those. So they're doing it in a very cautious way. But they plan on implementing the change in stages without setting hard deadlines and completing the transition. So we'll continue to monitor it, of course. But what does this mean for you? I mean, we talked about back in episode 18 that one of your resolutions should be to look at making sure that your website is mobile responsive, mobile ready, mobile first, whatever that terminology is that you want to use. So if you haven't done a makeover on your website in the last 3 to 5 years and it's not mobile friendly, you bring it up on your mobile phone and it's really difficult to click in and navigate the menu like Brendan says, then you really need to look at redoing your website so that when Google finally does roll it out fully, you won't be penalized in that way.
The other thing, let's say your site is mobile responsive, but in doing so you have hidden text, images, titles to make it all work. What Google is saying is that they're going to index your site as a mobile site also. So you need to make sure that your mobile site is SEO friendly.
Right.
Not that you've just, that banner didn't really work, so we hid it on the mobile responsive side, but it shows on the desktop side. You need to make sure that the content is there for both so that so when your site is indexed, even if it is mobile responsive, it has all the SEO content that you're trying to get out there. So that's another, I guess, for those who are mobile responsive, you need to look at your website again.
That's a fair point.
And to think about that.
Good point. I am going to switch things up here, Brendan. We're going to move over to Reddit.
Okay.
Changing the game plan a little bit. So we have some news on Reddit. Now, for those of you who don't know, Reddit is an online discussion forum with about 330 million users. So it's kind of a
couple of my closest friends.
Just a couple. So who's reporting this? Who's The Verge? The Verge is reporting that Reddit has upgraded their mobile app to add chat and moderation tools. So both their Android and iOS apps, they want to become mobile first. And the iOS version includes features such as user-to-user chat and live comment feeds that make the service feel more like Twitter. Ooh, scary, another Twitter.
Oh, but Reddit's so much better.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just stop there for a second. I mean, so that's the news basically is they're upgrading their mobile app, and that's cool. And those of you who know Reddit and are familiar with Reddit might think that's really cool. But I hazard to guess that a lot of people of our listeners have heard of Reddit. They've heard it in people's language and listening to people talking about it on podcasts such as ours, but they don't really know what it is because it's not a place where like a lot of people hang out there, but not really a lot of people. So talk about what Reddit is.
So Reddit, when you land on the homepage of Reddit, they claim to be the front page of the internet.
Right.
So in many ways, Reddit is like a massive content aggregator. But in other ways, it's forums. It's basically, you can have different forums for different topics, and they call them subreddits. And then you can jump into that forum and chat like you would in a forum.
So if you have an interest in widgets, chances are there is a forum on widgets.
There's a subreddit widgets.
And you can talk to other people who are equally geeky about widgets just like you.
Exactly.
Yep. And it's not just widgets. It's not like just tech nerdy stuff. We were talking earlier that it's like a meme factory where you see all those ridiculous memes popping up on Facebook. That's kind of where they all come from. They start on Reddit. By the time they hit Facebook, all the Redditors are like, meh, seen it already.
Yeah.
And one of the popular things that is more mainstream because more celebrities are doing it perhaps are the AMAs, which is Ask Me Anything. And that's like a set time of day. No. So if a celebrity wants to do an AMA, or if anyone wants to do an AMA, Reddit has some guidelines for how to set that up, but basically they have to prove who they are. And there's a number of different ways. Usually it's you take a picture with yourself and your Reddit ID. And that usually works for a celebrity, right? Mm-hmm. Because we all know who they look like and there's their Reddit ID. Right. So if you're doing an AMA, you can say like, hey, I'm Ellen DeGeneres and I'm doing an AMA on Saturday at 1 p.m. And people can jump online and literally ask her anything. And there's, the code is you'll answer anything, right? It's kind of the unwritten code.
And I think a lot of celebrities, when they do it, they probably have 3 or 4 people sitting at computers in front of them. Mm-hmm. And when a question comes in, they will dictate an answer.
And back in the day when Twitter chats were a big deal, like in 2010, 11, like a lot of businesses and people were really hooking into Twitter in a big way. There used to be Twitter chats. And I was actually involved in kind of celebrity type Twitter chats, and that's exactly what would happen. It's like 3 or 4 people sitting in front of a bank of computers. The person who's hosting the Twitter chat, that's that celebrity, if you will, is in the room and answering the questions. It's just because of the volume that it's happening at, can't do it efficiently.
I believe Elon Musk has done AMAs about SpaceX.
Right.
Answering any questions anyone has,
Right.
And it's a really good opportunity for unique personalities, unique brands or businesses to open it up to their customers. I think another place where Reddit really shines on the business side is support. So I've seen a lot of software development companies who have a subreddit for their users to interact, but they'll also post the updates and take feedback. via Reddit. And it's just because that's where their community lives. Like that's what, or
they've done the
segment.
research. That's the platform
Exactly.
where their audience and target customers are hanging out.
And that
so they want to be there.
That tends to be the nerdier.
I was going to say
side.
it tends to lean nerdier
Yeah.
than not nerdier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you again because I don't hang out in Reddit much. Usually when I am exposed to Reddit, it's because my friends are sending me something saying, hey, check this out. So I'm looking at very specific things.
Memes.
No, not always. Sometimes it's an article, you know. So I'm curious from a business perspective. I mean, you and I, again, we're talking about like marketers have tried to exploit Reddit, that platform, get that engagement, and they never seem to be able to do it. So how do businesses do it?
Well, so, okay.
Not in an exploitive way, of course. The marketers would exploit. Businesses just want to, like you say, honestly connect with.
Well, so this is it. So I have heard stories of people trying to game Reddit and trying to, you know, the same way, you know, people might have put clickbaity stuff on Facebook to try to get people to like and share. I've heard stories of people trying to do that on Reddit, and Reddit's just got this like BS meter, and they're just like, nope, and your post gets downvoted and it's gone.
Right.
It just doesn't see the light of day.
It's a fierce community, right?
Exactly.
Protective of their space. Twitter used to be like that again years ago, would call people out, you know, that were just doing spam content, like report, block.
So I think if you're a business and you feel or know that Reddit is a community for you, it's all about giving, and you will get in abundance,
right,
if that makes sense. So it's about giving to the community. So like those software development subreddits where there's a company building a product, like Reddit really is their beta testers. Like those are the guys who are going to read the updates for the next release. And then they're going to be the ones who, as soon as they notice a bug, they're going to hop in and tell you about that bug in detail.
And maybe even have a fix for it. And so it's not all techie, but I mean, like if you wanted to get into some of the political threads, or if you wanted to get into some of the more like less techie subreddits on Reddit, it's all about giving. It's all about giving value without the expectation of getting it. And Reddit has like a secret Santa, where you like randomly get a person in the world and then you buy them stuff. And every year Bill Gates is someone's secret Santa. Awesome.
And he sends them a box of stuff.
Right.
And that's just an example. Like Bill Gates has permeated into Reddit. He's not asking Reddit for anything.
Yeah.
But he's doing the secret Santa. He's done AMAs. You know what I mean? Like there's a good example of just giving. And I bet you if Bill Gates was like, guys, I need some help with XYZ, like the Reddit community would be like, yeah, of course.
Right.
Like you've been real good to us. You haven't tried to exploit us, and they'll come together.
Right. I think the key is it's a community. And just like you wouldn't exploit the community that in real life you hang out in, your town, your village, your hood, your school, your church, whatever that community is that you're part of, you are there to support that community as a person, and Reddit is really just an online version of that, and more international. It's global.
Exactly. I would take this same approach with all of your business social media, because it's gonna work.
Yeah.
It's refreshing everywhere. Reddit just has the I don't know what it is, the grit. Like people are just unforgiving, and will go in there where everywhere else it seems to be a little more like, oh, well, the feed, I can't control my feed. Well, Reddit, you control your feed. You know what I mean? Like there's things like that. And so
it's because marketers haven't got in.
Well, because they can't. and so when I see them putting out a mobile app, right, they're just going to reach more people. And I see them including chat and moderation tools. They're just bolstering that
army.
Ability.
Yeah,
exactly.
that bond of the community.
And I mean, like, I've heard stories of like Reddit helping with overseas investigations.
Right.
Right? Because it's like a crowdsourced.
Like phishing scams and things like that.
It's unreal what can happen when you bring in those, like the global community.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Neat. Now, back in episode 15, we talked about partnerships. We talked about Waze partnering up with Allstate Insurance, and Jumanji, Sony Pictures partnering up with Facebook's Oculus. This is a fun partnership that crossed my desk not too long ago. We probably could have included it in episode 15, but I just think it's awesome. So Travelocity, who is, the gnome who is their little mascot, the garden gnome, has opened a Tinder contest to draw in millennial travelers. I think this is brilliant. So this is actually reported on, sourced out of the Travelocity blog through their newswire, which we'll put up again on the marketingpodcast.ca in the show notes. But this is kind of a fun thing. So the Travelocity gnome has his own character, right? Like he has been part of their mascot, the little garden gnome, for quite some time. So he's got a presence. So Travelocity is owned by Expedia, with roughly 12 million monthly users, and they are running a contest on Tinder, which is a mobile dating app for those of you who don't, those married folk over 30. Really, I mean, I don't. Who else
uses Tinder?
Yeah, not married folk over 30, I'll tell you that. So they're running a contest on Tinder. So Tinder users can win a 10-day Caribbean vacation for two by interacting with a roaming gnome statue, which appears on Tinder's profile cards, which resemble the pages of users seeking dates. So they can swipe right, because that's how you like somebody on Tinder.
Is that how you do it?
Yeah,
how do you...
I'm told.
Right, okay,
I mean, I have a millennial son, so I know I know what swiping right is about. So by swiping right on the card to respond, people are invited to enter the, quote, Be My Know Me contest, where they try to convince the brand mascot to pick them as a travel mate.
I see this going bad.
Oh, well, I mean, all the horrible things they do to the gnome.
Yeah.
So the contest is also open to people who don't use Tinder, although nobody would know about the contest.
But now you do.
Now
and we
you do. That's right. So you can follow the @roaminggnome and @Travelocity accounts on Instagram, and people can enter by submitting a photo or video post explaining why they would be the perfect travel companion, including the hashtag #BeMyKnowMe contest. So I think this is really fun because, I mean, Tinder is that millennial crowd, and the millennials have a tendency to value lifestyle travel more than, like that whole work-life balance. And
it's a good partnership.
Yeah.
Yep.
So why not hook into them? And maybe right now they can't necessarily, or maybe they can, but maybe they can't afford to be taking yearly cruises or vacations. But as they continue to grow in their career and career development, it just kind of plants that brand and brand loyalty with them as they go through, next thing you know, they've met somebody on Tinder and they're planning a destination wedding and it goes on from there, right? So I think it's really neat, and it's a great partnership.
Here's a trivia question for you.
Uh-oh.
If you're using Tinder, what two things could you be doing?
Swiping right or swiping left?
Almost. Using an app or lighting a fire?
What are you like already doing the dad jokes?
Well, actually, that was a trivia question.
Was it?
Down at the bar, trivia night. Yep.
Excellent.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yep.
So I'd be curious to hear if anybody, any millennials out there would actually participate in the contest.
I'd swipe right on that gnome.
That's right. It's like
makes me think of the guy who put his profile picture as a glass of wine.
Well, I don't know.
Did you ever hear about that
No.
on Tinder? He got every woman swiped right.
Is that right?
Glass of wine comes up.
Awesome.
Everyone swiped right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Be My Know Me contest, hashtag, throw it out there, win a Caribbean cruise. I don't even know the details in terms of when the contest ends, but you can certainly find those details at themarketingpodcast.ca. We'll have a link to the Travelocity blog where they're talking about the trip. It may be over by now for all I know, but it's creative. It's fun. I don't know. I mean, we usually talk about how can other businesses do this. I don't know if other businesses can do this. It just reiterates the creativity in forming partnerships, identifying what kind of audience you want to attract and how do you get to that audience.
Yep.
And Travelocity has identified that millennial group they want to get into bed with.
Yeah.
So why not get into bed with them when they're trying to get into bed with others? No?
Yeah. No, that's Excellent.
Excellent. I'm getting like, really, Heather? Really? You went there?
I think a business, the best way they can use this as an example would be, find another business that hits your demographic and do a partnership.
Yep.
That's basically what's going on here. Like if it's middle-aged men, find a men's barbershop.
Yep.
You know what I mean? If you're looking for kids, probably find a mom's group or a whatever. That kind of thing.
The public library.
Exactly.
Yeah. So on that note, Brendan, I feel like we've just whipped through all of these stories today. So on the Marketing Podcast, we'll wrap it up. So for the Marketing Podcast, I'm Heather Watson.
And I'm Brendan Quigley.
Thanks for listening.